You are now listening to the Business Banter podcast, where top minds in business collide and wisdom is exposed. My name is Jack Kozakowski. I'll be your host for the day. My passion for this podcast is that you walk away better personally and professionally from the amazing stories that are told. Now let's get ready to banter. So I am super excited. Today is day one, episode one of the Business Banter podcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you awesome people in business, awesome people that have great stories and lots of life lessons. And we're going to do that through Business Banter. This is just, I have no predetermined questions when I go into with any of my guests. It's really just a conversation around personal life, professional life, sales, marketing, scaling, all kinds of different ideas. And really, let me just tell you, I kind of let the conversation go where the conversation goes. And I'm excited today because we have Tom Chenault on the show. Tom Chenault is an absolute phenomenon. I mean, this guy's like 68 years old. He started is millionaire through MLM. I mean, just to be fair, he's made tons of money doing that. He was selling airplanes. He's going to tell you all these different stories. But the coolest thing about him is at 65 years old, he co-founded a tech company with his son that's doing amazing. So he's going to talk about relationships and how he turned that into a business. But you're going to hear so much wisdom. And the best part is you're going to hear a lot of humor. Tom is absolutely one of the funniest guys you're ever going to meet. So enjoy episode one of the Business Banter podcast. So I'm excited today because I have the wildest, coolest, most creative, one of the most creative minds that I know. Mr. Tom Chenault, how are you?
How are you, Jack?
I am amazing. So why do I have Tom on here? So there's so many, I don't know if you follow Tom on social media, but if you don't, I highly recommend it. But Tom Chenault will give you more life lessons as a millennial in one post per day than you could get. I mean, you should honestly, Tom, charge for all of your wisdom that you put on social for free.
It's a miracle I'm even alive at age 68. And so it is, I was just talking to some guys this morning, and I just got back from my 50-year high school reunion. So 400 people graduated from the class. 100 of them are dead. Another 150 went to the reunion. And of that 150, it was astounding to me how many were retired from their jobs. But even more of them were retired from this game called life. They just realized, I guess, at some point that they weren't relevant anymore, so they may as well just die. And I said, what the heck is that all about? No. And it was astounding to me because I am telling you, there is no time to die until you're dead, Jack. And the reason I do that stuff every day is because it keeps me alive.
Yeah, you have an interesting story. So, the main thing that I want the guests to get out of this and my people that are listening to the show is, I want to explain how you've turned relationships into a business, right? But I think before we get into that is, what do you say you're 68? Would you say you're 68 years old?
Oh, yeah, 68 years old. Yeah, why?
Absolutely, just insane. So just to be fair, Tom has co-founded a business with his son in the last, 3 years?
A couple of years, yeah.
So you started a tech company essentially at 65 years old.
Yeah, stuck $1 million into it. Yeah.
Now, is that $1 million of your own money into it?
Of course not. No one needs
So moral of the story is if you take anything out of this, you guys, this guy's 65 years old, he started a company. So nobody has any excuse not to start to live at 65, let alone even think about starting that business you want to start, right?
I don't care if you're 12. What you want to have a philosophy of is make the rest of your life the best of your life and start now.
So before we get into the relationships and turning it into a business, I think it's kind of cool to tell your story because, just to be fair, I know that Alcoholics Anonymous plays a huge role in your life. And, you're kind of rare because I know a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they don't like to talk about it, most of them, right? They're not very open about it. And
otherwise, they would just call it A, just A instead of AA, yeah. So they've got they're very tightly wound about the actual program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But if you really study that, Your anonymity is your own business. The anonymity of Alcoholics Anonymous is really, really, really important. But I am so sick and tired of this deep, dark secret of alcoholism and drug abuse really killing this country that I don't give a rat's whether anybody likes or dislikes the fact that I carry my sobriety like a torch, because I get a call a day, I swear to you it's true, from somebody who had no idea where to turn until they saw something I posted that let them realize there was something out there called Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous. There's 12-step programs for everything. So I'll take that punch. I mean, you want to get mad at me for your I don't even know what I would call it. No, I'm going to talk about it. So if you don't want to talk about it, we might as well stop now.
Why do you think people don't want to talk about it? Like that's a, I have, and I'm not going to name any family members, but I have family members in AA, and they don't want it to be talked about. And I've always been curious about that, because I've always felt that you should brag about that. Like that is something to be damn proud of. I think it is a very, very awesome thing, because there's so many people, that can't ever get out of that world, right?
Social stigma. I mean, all these manly people can't stop drinking, you're a loser. They refuse to accept the fact that alcoholism and drug abuse just might be a disease, and it involves willpower, they think. And, it's just crazy to me. And shame is a big thing, and we keep shame in the dark, and families keep shame in the dark. And when you've got an alcoholic son, it reflects on you. I've got a heroin addict son, 27 years old, and it's been a 12-year battle. And there's been times where I thought his disease reflected on my sobriety, and that's on me, and that's most people.
So, yeah, it's just an interesting topic, and I think what you do is amazing, because how can you change the world with your story if you don't put it out there, right? I mean, you are so open about it. And I mean, you're so open about it that it almost feels so natural to actually be proud of, to be in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I mean, like people are rooting for you, right? You make it so interesting, because you always have so many life lessons that you share about your experiences and how that brought you down and how you got yourself out of that.
The only thing I wish many years ago, Tom Hanks and that movie company would have made Forrest Gump a recovering alcoholic. Because his story is my story, except my story happened and his was Hollywood written. But I want to tell you guys one thing right now. That story that guy's got, of a guy that just went from zero, had nothing, not even that mentally strong. They could have easily used me. And all I did was become unbelievably irreplaceable, because I have such unbelievable relationships all over the world in every walk of life. I've got 2 homeless people that literally live in my parking lot of my building, and I can call anybody on the phone and talk to them about anything, because I figured out a way to become everybody's best friend, just because of the circle of influence that I've got at every level of life.
It's amazing. And so what I would say, and I'm going to save this debate. I had struggled with having this debate with you because of the whole MLM stigma, right? And just a preference. I'm going to let Tom talk about this, but Tom's made his fortune in the MLM industry, and I want you to tie your story of like alcoholism and and then how the MLM played into that, and then kind of where you're at today. And then let's transition, once you've told that story, into how you've turned relationships into a tech business.
Okay, so it's a really simple story. Totally shy kid. Ended up working at a restaurant. Found out I had some charisma. Ended up running a restaurant with 107 employees, all under the age of 18 years old, 75,000 people going through the doors a month. 168 hours in a week. I was working about 110 of them. But I became unbelievably powerful in my town of Littleton, Colorado, just by the circle of influence that I had of people walking through that door of the restaurant. And I realized the person who knew the most people and remembered things about the most people won. And I never forgot that. And I drank myself out of the restaurant business. And my dad, I'll never forget it. He goes, "Tommy, you are an alcoholic." I go, no shit, Dad. So then he said, you got to get out of the restaurant business. That's why you're a drunk. I go, okay, I'm going to listen to you, Dad. You're my dad. He said, you've got to figure out how to sell something to rich people. So my last name is Chenault, very famous aviation name. So I thought, well, I'll just go sell airplanes. So I walked into Beach Aircraft Corporation, the airplane company. They make the Cadillac of the sky. The guy looked at me and said, how many hours do you have flying? I said, none. He said, why would I try to take a guy who's never been in an airplane and make him an airplane salesman? And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, you've been trying to teach all those pilots to sell. That's not working so well. They're just wasting your gas. Why don't you teach a salesman to fly? Next thing you know, I'm an airplane salesman, and I just absolutely hated flying those things. I knew somebody was going to get killed, but I flew them from bar to bar and just had a blast doing it. Actually set a record with Beach for selling single engine airplanes because I couldn't wait to get out of them and go sell them versus the other salesmen that just wanted to fly around and, fly airplanes. So finally, I realized that not very many people really wanted to buy airplanes. They trained me to sell like a crazy man. I mean, Beach taught me to sell. And all of a sudden, I became a stockbroker. And it was an unbelievable job because every new stockbrokers, they're trying to teach people how to get $500 from people. I'd been trained by Beach. So I was trained to take lots of money from people from something they didn't want called an airplane. And I got in the stock brokerage business, and I was an alcoholic and a hand grenade with the pin pulled. As a result of that, it didn't end well. However, I made a tremendous amount of money, and I made millionaires out of people, Jack. I mean, I really did. Because they were multimillionaires and I knocked them all the way down to just millionaires. It was hilarious. But at the end of the day, I drank myself out. And my sponsor in AA, I got 2 disturbing the pieces in 1988 and 2 DUIs in 1 month. So it was a terrible month. And I finally got sober. And the sponsor in AA said, Tom, you've got to stop doing what got you drunk in the first place. I thought he meant being a stockbroker, so I quit my job because I'm an idiot. And the next thing you know, I'm unemployable. Taco Bell wouldn't take me. And I didn't even necessarily have that much of a relationship with God, but this is kind of a God moment. I opened up a newspaper, out fell a little slip of paper. It said unlimited income opportunity, no credit check, no background check. I go, I'm home. I'm in. I'll do it. Whatever it is, I'm going to do it. And I called the guy on the phone. And his name was Eric. And I said, what is this? He said, multi-level marketing. And I had sworn, because I hated those guys with a passion, pyramid scheme. And I had sworn that I would rather be a Martian than a man on the moon than a multi-level marketer. And I looked at the guy and I said, I'm in. Can I really make all that money? He goes, yep. I said, no credit check? Nope, no back. Oh, I'm in. He goes, okay, I'll send you some information. I said, like hell you will. I'm coming to your house. I went over to his house, and it smelled like cats. I walked in the door. It was crazy. I walk in the door. I held my breath for like a half an hour. He sold me these 5 skincare kits from New Skin, and I walk out the door. I go, when can I get more of these? He goes, we'll figure that out when you sell those. I sold them before I got home because I'd written a hot check. And that was my foray into the business. And I was exactly like everybody else, just throwing up on people, signing them up. Terrible. Everything I hated about multi-level marketing, I had become. And all of a sudden I realized it wasn't me. And I said, I've got to figure out my way around this thing. And I was doing AA. I did the Landmark Forum. I got into this deep, deep, deep conversation about becoming a better human being. And I wanted to become a better human being inside of multi-level marketing because I was actually good at it because I had nothing, the product never breaks. In everything else I've ever done, the product broke. But with this, it didn't break. I mean, it was just me out there on the point being a great salesman, and I shifted that conversation after I did the forum from selling to enrollment, and I started enrolling people in the possibility of hope and having a better life. And I changed the conversation completely, and I invented something called the coffee shop interview, which is a powerful inquiry into what people really want out of their life. And I would just talk to people about what they really wanted in their life, and if it involved Alcoholics Anonymous, I plugged the hole with that. If it involved money, time, or health, I use my network marketing company and plug the hole with that. But my entire goal in life to this day was leaving everybody who met me feeling better about meeting me than when they got there. And that's all I did, Jack. And I have turned that in to an unbelievable income, because all I do is try to do the next right thing, take my agenda out and have other people's agenda carry the day. And it's made me the man I am today. And I'm not going to talk about money. I'm going to talk about
just to be fair, one time I Googled you, Tom, and I don't know, I Googled like top earners of network marketing, and you know that you were on like almost all of the lists that I Googled. And just to be fair, and like all fairness, like Tom and I work together. Our agency helps with the technology we're going to talk about next. But so Tom's like kind of a big deal. He won't really tell you that, but like if you Google network marketers, like Tom is at the top of the chain. But I do want to dive into that just a little bit, because and my challenge to you is that I want to have Eric Worre on here, because I want to have the debate with him, or not me have the debate with him, but I want to have him talk about the MLM, because he's fired up right now about taking on the conversation around MLMs, right, and the dirty stigma.
Sure.
You don't even need to defend it, to be fair, because your track record of your earnings and your career and all that, like you don't even need to defend the terminology, right? But to be fair, on the MLM side, you talked about being a salesman in the airline industry, which is, one of the hardest things. You talked about being a stockbroker, which is another hard thing, getting people to give you their money and trust you with it. How, compared to like other MLM people that come in here, they have no sales acumen, right? I mean, a lot of these people have never sold anything in their life, and they come into the industry. How did that correlate? And do you think you'd have the success you did today if you didn't have all that deep sales training beforehand?
I think that's a hindrance. Sales is a hindrance for sure, because it's not transactional. When you enroll somebody in the network marketing, you're forming a partnership for life. You're not just selling something like you work at Dillard's or something. They pay, they leave at Dillard's. When you enroll somebody in the network marketing, you're taking on a serious responsibility. And I am telling you something. You just opened up a can of worms.
That's what I wanted. I'm waiting for the worms. So
I'm crazed about this. Everybody and everything lives in a world called, if I just take another course, if I just learn something else, sooner or later I'm going to be successful. And they never are, especially in multi-level marketing. They just learn. They go to all these guys, they go to all this stuff, they spend all their money, and they're still the same person with all this knowledge, but they can't get out of their way. So you take that circle called skills, and you add that, you put a plus sign, and you add that to a giant heart called personal development, compassion, rigorous self-inquiry. And then you add that to sharing that with other people. And then on the other side is an equal sign that says a big pyramid that's got you at the top. And inside that pyramid is a great life. Because if you learn those skills and you learn how to actually talk and relate to people powerfully, and learn to share with other human beings your highs, your lows, your vulnerability, you're going to have that great life. But most people are so locked into the skills, living in that whole skills world, they never get into their best self, and the magic lies in their best self. And I don't care what line of work it is, Mr. Podcast Man. I don't care if it's a creation agency. I don't care if you're in real estate. I don't care if you're a teacher. It isn't the smartest people that win. It's the most authentic, vulnerable people that win. And everybody's stuck in that small circle.
I saw a video the other day of there's this guy, and he's like, let me just tell you, he's out of his mind, but he's created like 100 billionaires or something, like through coaching. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but his name's Dan Pena. I'll send you a video, Tom. Guys out of his mind, like explicit, but like he has no BS, right? But this guy talks about, the number one thing that he sees that holds people back from success in life and business, mainly talking about business, was self-esteem, right?
The mirror.
Yeah. So he talks about this is like, sales training. He goes, it's funny that you go train a bunch of insecure people that have no self-esteem how to sell something. But, if you really look at it, you can't teach somebody how to sell that doesn't even know how to sell themselves, that doesn't even believe in themselves. And I thought, it's funny because these companies that, like these large companies that we work with from an agency perspective, they go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on sales trainers, right? Which, some of them, are my clients, and they're phenomenal. But I do think it comes back to this whole thing is what you talk about, and this is kind of plays into how you've turned relationships into technology, though, is really understanding yourself and kind of building up your self-esteem first, and using that as your power to sell, not actually the sales techniques that you're taught.
All I did was merge the Landmark Forum, personal development, Alcoholics Anonymous, and network marketing all together into one conversation. So basically what I did was took Alcoholics Anonymous. What do you do when you're an alcoholic? You hate everybody, you hate the world, you walk in the door, you sit down, they say, don't drink today. You say, are you out of your mind? All I do is drink today. They say, okay, well, just don't drink today, come back. And then you say, okay, I didn't drink today, what do I do? They said, come back tomorrow. You come back tomorrow, they say, what do I do? They say, do 90 meetings in 90 days. Oh, I can't do that. I'm going to go get drunk. So you go get drunk, you come back in, you crawl back in the door. They say, okay, first you have to read this book. So you read the book, then they say, now you have to have a sponsor and tell them all your secrets. Oh, no way. Okay, go get drunk, you crawl back in. Finally, you go to 90 meetings in 90 days, you find a sponsor, you do the 12 steps, you graduate, and at the end of that, what happens? They say, what do I do now? I've done it. They go help other people. That's all it is. What's the difference between that and anything? Multi-level marketing especially. Nobody wants to be in multi-level marketing. It's the last house on the block. You walk in the door, you hate everybody because you hate yourself. You're dead broke. You think you're better than everybody in the room. All of a sudden you're in a culture. You go out and go crazy and figure out your own system, and it doesn't work, and you come back in. It is exactly the same thing, Jack. And you finally stick around and you learn it. And then all of a sudden you say, geez, I've learned this. What do I do? Well, if you want to make more money, you got to go teach other people what you just learned. Multi-level marketing and business and Alcoholics Anonymous are all exactly the same thing. It is inquiry, becoming a better person. What stops? You're a very, very good guy. And I want to think of how I can say this powerfully. I am a competitive guy, and I used to always look over there at the guy that had nothing, ugly, fat, just horrible human being over there with a product that cost more than mine that wasn't as good. And he had all the people around him. And here I am, hip, slick, and cool, wearing my Armani suit over here, just absolutely all alone with a cheaper, better product. And he had all the customers. And I could never figure that out. Why can't those people figure out how cool I am? It's because I wasn't cool. I was this superficial bag of bones with a nice suit. And I had no idea that if I would have just learned from my shirt says, fire your head, hire your heart. And the reason it says that is because that's what you have to do. Get out of your head and get into their soul, get into their heart, find out what's important to them, and you will win the day. And forget your agenda and stop trying to monetize people the first time you meet them. And you might actually have a chance at a relationship, which is going to create a chance at a sale.
And this ties into, and let's go back to this at 65 years old with your son, which I think is just phenomenal. You and your son have an amazing relationship and business that's just starting to blow up, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny that you took all of these life lessons, and then you took your smart son, right? And you said, okay, I'm going to take all of the wisdom that I have and everything that I've learned in the last 65 years. And now we have to build a technology around this because of the simple fact that people don't know how to manage relationships anymore, right? I mean, I think that was
right.
Your thinking, right? It's like, so at this point we have social media, we have, all these, people are moving at the speed of light, and a lot of it's through the digital platforms that we have. And so give me your explanation on where your head was at when you said to Adrian, who's your son, co-founder, when you said to him, like, hey, here's what I know. I'm 65 years old and I need to teach people how to do what I do. We need a technology to do this. Like, how did that conversation start? Because I'm interested in that.
It started when Adrian was 5, and I drugged the poor little kid around with me all the time because I was a single dad, actually 8. And he grew up very tightly wound. His second grade teacher, he'll love me out that I said that. His second grade teacher wrote her doctorate on him. He graduated summa cum laude from a school called Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. Ended up getting recruited by a company called Rackspace, a cloud company. Turned around San Antonio. So then they headed him down to, and this is, I'm making most of this up, so I don't know that he turned anything around. I don't know that I should have mentioned the company name. And so then he went down to, they sent him down to England, and he really, really did a good job there. So they sent him to Australia in the finance department. He did a good job there. So they sent him to Zurich, Switzerland. And by now he's got 3 kids. He's working like all the time. He is absolutely stressed to the max all the time. He's loving his life. He's making a fortune, but he's working himself to death and distancing himself from his family. And he came home at Christmas. He looked terrible. Every time he turned his phone on, it was Armageddon somewhere in the world. In his job, he was director of international finance for Rackspace. And he said, Dad, this is going to kill me. I love my job, but it's going to kill my family. It's going to kill me. What am I going to do? I said, figure it out. And this is the truth. So, Jack, I'm just telling you, I've got to reinvent the story so you understand what really happened.
Yeah. I've never heard this story, by the way.
He's in the shower and he's praying. He's gone to Y Combinator. He's gone to all those things about startups. He understands all that stuff. And what they said at Y Combinator and all those other tech startup places is find an unbelievable idea and then make sure that you have an influencer that's going to drive it. And I swear, kid's a real Christian kid. He's in the shower, and all of a sudden he said, it's Dad. And that's how it was born. He looked at me and said, that hot mess has something. What he does intuitively, we could teach people to do if they just had an app in their hand instead of a bunch of business cards or an Excel spreadsheet or all the other hocus pocus CRMs out there that are supposed to keep track. What if we just built a really, really clean app to let you help you keep track of people's favorite subject, which is themselves. And once he figured that out, he and this kid from MIT, Rick Manelius, built this app that is unbelievable because it does everything that all those other things, including the yellow stickies, were supposed to do. And right in your hand, you've got everybody's blood type right there. So when you talk to them on the phone, you can actually remember their life and what happened the last time you talked. So not only do you have the history, but it also does unbelievable job with follow-up. So you're never, ever losing anybody in the loop again. And that's magic, Jack. And that's what they developed. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just the face.
So essentially, he solved solved a problem that we all have.
Yeah.
That lots of other people have already solved, but I think they've solved it at the business level, right? So more of like, we're tracking relationships and what people are saying, but it's solely for business, and it's for people that are more tech savvy and maybe early adopters. Because these like Salesforce and HubSpot and all these, they're clunky and they're more business oriented. What you guys said was, let's come up with a simple solution to a really big problem, and this is already something you'd been preaching. So essentially, what you took is all of the experience that you had, and you guys, Adrian and Rick actually turned this into a technology.
Humanize your address book. And it's far more than an app. An app is only the tool. You are completely alienating people with your likes and your Facebook and all the crud that we do. That's number one. I mean, we're getting so connected, we're disconnected. That's number one. And how safe is your data really? Facebook goes away tomorrow, you're done, just like MySpace. Your company takes away, whether you're at Salesforce or whatever it is, you quit your job, they take away your database. How is that even close to okay? Your most prized possession, other than the body you're living in right now, should be your Rolodex or your address book. Yet it is the most abused thing out there. And if you don't think I'm telling you the truth, just forget your mother's birthday. Yeah. Kids forget yours. And you'll find out how important that is. It's amazing.
Well, I think that I'm guilty of this. So I think in the digital age, we manage our relationships based on, a message here, a message there, like you said. And, my mom had said to me one day, like, you need to pick up the phone and you need to call me because you message me all the time. She said, I need to talk to my son. You're my only son. And, she gave me a little bit of lecture. And then I realized, like, wow, this is kind of weird. Like, if I need something from my mom, I used to call her all the time. Now I Facebook message her, right?
Yeah.
But I think what I love about you guys is, the product's great, yada, yada, yada. But what I love about you guys is that you guys are talking about simple things that when it comes to relationships that we aren't thinking about, right? So you're talking about, hierarchies and Maslow's triangles and things like that. But like what you're talking about, Tom, is actually just getting on live streams and really, really hammering every aspect of what a relationship is and why and how we suck at it, and really starting to bring to the forefront like aha moments for people, right? And not enough people talk about it. There's people talk about relationships, but I don't think they hammer it in the way that you do and they articulate it to give people an aha moment and say, I need to change something about how I treat the relationships that I currently have.
We are human beings being human. That's what we are. Everybody else is trying to trick people. We're trying to shrink the trick back to authenticity, vulnerability, and remembering what's important to people. And what's important to you, Jack, is obviously your family. That, your business is great and, you're good at it, but you're going to be good at whatever you do. What my job is to find out what pops your eyes open at 2:00 in the morning and make sure that I can help you get better at that. That's what I really work on. And that's what the contact mapping app is designed for. If I try to pitch a business deal at one of my AA friends in their first week of sobriety, I might as well just push them off the cliff. It's that simple. I have got to know who I'm speaking to, not who I'm speaking at. And most people are just speaking at. There's nobody doing any listening.
Isn't it more about the motive too? So like one of the really things I've preached, for a long time in business, especially with the whole ideology of social selling and, which kind of fits into what you guys do at the contact mapping app. But what I've always said is, we always have this new mentality in sales, and I don't know if it's changed because it's digital or whatever, but it's ask before value, right? So I always say, are you selling value, value versus ask? And you guys talk about this, Adrian, a lot is, if you meet somebody new, the first thing you should be doing is who can you introduce them to and what value can you bring to them, right? And I never see this. Like I go to a lot of networking events and it's very rare where I meet somebody and they go, oh, you know what, Jack, let me learn more about you. And hey, by the way, let me figure out 2 people that I could introduce you to that could really get some value out of your agency. I never hear that, right? But the few times I have, I've got relationships with those people. And that's a very interesting area that you guys have hit on and how the contact mapping app fits into that.
Okay. So here's what happens in a networking group or a leads club is everybody shows up. They all go through around the same circle. They all pitch their deal to each other that they pitched to each other last week. Everybody gets to know each other better and life goes on. Same with networking groups. My job is to make you, Jack, a walking, talking networking group in and unto yourself, where every time you are meeting with anybody, your entire goal is to figure out how to connect them to somebody else so whereby the world's a better place. If you get that kind of intent going on where you move your agenda into their agenda instantly, you're going to be astounded at how the magic starts to happen and the world starts to connect. I promise you, I promise everybody, and that's where it transcends from the skills to the soul and the heart, which all of a sudden becomes sharing, the networking group, which all of a sudden equals a great life that you've actually got control over with like-minded individuals like you.
Yep.
That's that simple.
If your head, like you said, if your heart's not in it and you don't genuinely understand the people part of just life and humans in general, the business part's really, you're always going to struggle with that if you can't figure that first part out first.
If you're going someplace where a Armani suit is going to get you business, that's where you should go. But I promise you there aren't many places like that. people want, we all think that this facade, all I ever wanted to be was Tony Robbins or Eric Worre or any one of those hot shots. And I was a terrible Tony Robbins. I was a terrible Eric Worre. When I finally figured out I could learn their skills, but work on becoming the best me, authentic, tell one on myself. You just said that every day I feel it. You watch these things. All I do constantly is try to show people my soul. And do you know what happens constantly? They want to buy that story because it's so fresh. And every one of you have that same story in you. It's not my story, it's yours. And if you want to get to the top, get more vulnerable. Shame is absolutely running everybody. Brené Brown, I'm a huge fan. Everybody has a story that will take you to your knees if you'll just take the time to listen. I live for those stories, and it's made me successful beyond measure, way beyond money. In the universe, it's helped me so much because I finally, not only do I belong, but I finally fit in. And I have a tribe that's unbelievable.
So we're a little bit over time right now, but that's okay because I think you're entertaining enough that we can do that. So we've got about 3 minutes left. One of the things I would ask you, because I always like try to tie like some type of social business into this, but how much has Facebook Live changed your business? Like how much? I mean, because you are on Facebook Live all the time,
every day.
How much business would you say that business, and we're going to get into business terms here, relationships. We already know that is your key part of this, but like, how much would you say that Facebook Live has had a huge impact on your business?
No doubt, as much as I want, Jack, and that is absolutely the truth. I have got as much business as I want as a result of Facebook Live, and at this stage of the game, I'm not trying to make $1 a day anymore because I have plenty of dollars. I'm trying to make an impact a minute. And Facebook Live has given people the chance to know me and choose me. Before, they were just kind of looking at me from afar, wondering who the hell this lunatic was. Now they know, and I couldn't have done it without Facebook Live or any of the lives. I mean, if Facebook goes away, I will figure out a way to share my soul with everybody because I think it's the missing link.
What's your strategy on that? I mean, because you go on Facebook Live a lot. Like you've got a live show, so like if you guys ever want to see some really good content, Tom does a live show every week. But what's your strategy from a personal perspective? Because I think that's where a lot of people struggle is, how do I know what the hell to talk about all the time, right? I mean, but you always figure out something to talk about. Like, do you have like is your content strategy just on the fly, or how does that work?
I don't even know what content strategy even means. So I guess that must be on the fly. So sorry.
Yeah. So you come up with all these interesting topics, but I mean, really what you do is you always just lead with a story. So if you see that a story's happening, you just go on and talk about it. Would that be your strategy?
Yeah, I don't, and I try to right wrongs. I see so much going on where somebody, I just heard about a network marketing company shaming their top distributor who's been sober 20 years. And, they told him not to talk about sobriety anymore. And that pisses me off. So I'm going to do a live and barbecue those people today, and it will be great. People will love it because it's coming from my heart. They know I mean it. They know it wasn't a soundbite trying to get people to join this or join that. They know I'm legitimately pissed off, and people buy that. They love the truth.
That's awesome. So Tom, how can people get a hold of you if they have questions or just want to connect with you? What's the best channel for them?
Tom@contactmapping.com is the easiest 3 words to spell. Contact mapping is 2 words and Tom is 1. Tom@contactmapping.com is how I would do it. Or you can call me 720-407-2222. I never sleep. I'm 68 years old. I'm afraid to go to sleep because I'm afraid I might not wake up. So that's what you want to do there. It's awesome.
Tom is the only person that you will ever hear that gave his actual mobile cell number on a podcast. Oh man!
Call me. I don't care. That's what phones are for.
Tom, you are amazing. I appreciate you having you coming on today, and it's funny because we talk, quite a bit, and I like every time I talk to you, I feel like there's a new storyboard. So I learned a lot on this podcast.
Me too. All right, man. Thank you so much, Jack.